path forward that we have. But right now, people get burnt out with protesting and boycotting because they don't often see or understand the structure underneath that leads to long-term change. Boycotts only work when you have non-corporate options. So every boycott should also push people towards building non-corporate options, not just shop local small, not at all. Every boycott needs more local options. So the boycott should funnel people into creating local options. That's what we need to do, because what we need to understand is that the more local options we create, the stronger our pushback becomes. We have not been able to do what we need to do politically because we don't have what we can do economically. That's the whole thing. There is no local grocery store. Riri, this is what you do. You become your local food distributor. This is a small business idea that you don't need a single dollar to start up for. Because all corporations do currently is they are middlemen that control access. They buy up all the food in your area, and they make sure no local grocery stores can compete. So then that way, when you go to buy the food, Riri, you have to pay whatever the F they want you to pay. So what you do is you call up 10 or 20 people and you say, hey, I'm sick of the corporations buying all our food and then gouging us on the price. I'm getting together 15, 20, 30 people that just want to buy eggs from a local farmer. I understand that eggs aren't going to change everything, but we need to show people that we don't need corporations for everything, that we can figure this out on our own. Riri, I haven't posted it yet, but I have an entire guide on how you start this, on how you say, hey, all I need is 5 people in my state to find 20 other people that want to buy local. Everybody wants to buy local. It won't be that hard. So you and 5 other people in your state find 20 other people each that want to buy local. Now you've got 100 dozen eggs, 100 dozen eggs a week, or 100 pounds of vegetables a week. You call up the local farmer. Maybe the local farmer gives it to you for a good price. Maybe they're selling you their eggs for $3 a dozen. And then maybe you're working like 5 hours a week. So you tell everybody, hey, is it all right if I charge like a 50-cent coordination fee? And then all of a sudden you're making $50 a week to connect people to food. Yes, but we have to understand Stephen Miller is working in cahoots with the corporation. If we had enough money to sit our asses at home for 6 months, this would be over in a couple weeks. Corporations and politicians realize it's not just about not having any corporate or any local options. We also need to make sure that they don't have any money, because then they have to go back to work. And since we control their employment, we control whether they can strike or protest or boycott. We fix that by creating our own feedback loop. Protesting is not about protesting for protest's sake. Every mass action we take funnels people into building local alternatives that then make the next boycott and protest stronger. That's the only way we can do this. We build local alternatives. Local alternatives make boycotts, strikes stronger. And the stronger the strikes and boycotts are, the more people will wake up. Most of the mom and pop shops get their products from a mega corporation. And I feel bad. You can't love this country without MAGA. They are simply products of their society that was born into a system that made them ultra competitive rather than understanding that cooperation was the way to go. You're frustrated because you are trying to have moral arguments with them when they didn't get themselves here morally. I live in Baltimore. We are mortal enemies with Pittsburgh and the Steelers. I don't actually think that the people in Pittsburgh are terrible. I think they were born into a situation where they were told their whole life to love this. You don't teach them. That's the whole thing. This takes politics out of the equation. See, that's a horrible thing to say because you're going to be working with boomers to build this alternative economy. And simply because they had a different experience than you, you're wishing that on them because they grew up in a different world. That's what's so crazy. When people talk about this way, because they were born into a system. So that's where Irish flutist. So you are one of the people that's part of the problem then. Because what you need to understand is that, hey, I'm not going to treat that person like a fully functioning adult. Look at them like toddlers if you need to. Trump loves the uneducated for a reason, because you're getting upset at people that didn't put themselves in this. I know, and that's probably why you're frustrated. You don't talk to people who got to a place out of habit. You're trying to talk to them to have a moral argument. You will never be able to have a moral argument with someone who grew up with horses. I know, but I don't like the way that you're communicating because a lot of people, yeah. And this is where if you believe that, you are a huge part of the problem. Because people like Irish flutist point at a group of Americans that were born into a situation that they couldn't control. And rather than saying, oh man, I feel bad for those people, that so much of their humanity has been sucked from them, that this is the way they act. I think that if we built something that didn't suck their humanity from them, that didn't tell them that other people were terrible, that maybe they would still not all come over to our side, but they would stop supporting a system that screws them over, because the only reason they're currently doing it is because that system supports them. You give the poorest man somebody to look down on, and they'll empty out your pockets for you. And it's insane that we blame the individuals for being brainwashed rather than the people that are doing the brainwashing. That's what it comes down to. It's very easy to blame the people that are brainwashed. But why don't we ask who benefits from those people being brainwashed? My God. That's why I was getting so frustrated with that person. Because it's like, yeah, we are on the same side. But we can't hate MAGA. I hate the fact that they fell for brainwash. But I'm not going to say they are terrible people. They will never work for us. No, their humanity just got taken out from them. Because what we have to understand is that we are blaming the people that got brainwashed rather than the people that are doing the brainwashing. So why don't we figure out who is doing the brainwashing, why they are doing it, and work to fight against it. I say this. They fell for propaganda that basically lied to them. Well, then let's fight fire with fire. Let's return that propaganda. So that's exactly what this is about, B-Spam. Somebody said, I feel we need to do more than protest because the government doesn't care about protest. That is exactly right. Protesting really only matters when you have two things to go with it: striking and boycotts, because the people in Minnesota said it best. We're going to stop talking and we are going to start hurting Trump and his billionaire friends, right? That is fine. But what we're saying is if you want to build something different, you have to hold your nose and say, I'm going to manipulate those people that were manipulated. If they were brainwashed this easily by giant corporations, then we can figure out how to move forward again. And we're not saying to talk to the people whose heads are in the sand, but eventually some people are going to lift their heads up. And if you say, screw you, you were MAGA, what the hell? That doesn't help us. You can't be mad at the people that got brainwashed. You have to ask, who did the brainwashing? You are right. But everybody has the same anger. It wasn't pre-existing hate. It was frustration with what was happening. And it's so funny. Then you are not someone who wants to build a solution. You just want to get angry at the people that caused this. That's what it comes down to. Because if you are going to say, I want to fix our country, but I'm not going to do it with 30% of people because they got brainwashed and I don't like what they said, then how are you helping anything? Are you not being just as divisive, right? That's fine. Our job isn't here to, I'm not trying to change people's minds. I'm saying that, yeah, if all people have ever known is a horse, right? Yeah, that's where Miss J. Moore, I'm 100% with you. People monolith entire generations, right? There you go, Black Camila. That's what it is. They were angry at the same things we are angry now. It's just that Trump pointed the finger down instead of up. That's it. Americans were pissed because they said, we all feel that this system doesn't work for us. Because the system doesn't work for us, we are looking for a villain. We're looking for a problem. Trump came and pointed to a villain and pointed to a problem. Immigrants and people that think differently than you. So they took the fear they already had, gave them a villain, and stoked the hate. But they aren't bad people. They simply were looking around the same way we were, and they were given the wrong information, and they were lied to. Sure, the people that keep perpetuating that lie, I don't want to talk to either. But if somebody is ready to come around and they've only been following this ideology because they don't know where else to go, because they're followers and they want to hop on a bandwagon somewhere. JK, why are you debating with me? If you believe that this movement is not for you, because you are saying 75 million Americans were bad people to begin with. And if you believe that, I don't think that you can be a part of the solution. Not enough. I'm going to block you, Muhammad. That has to be the dumbest thing that somebody would say, because it's actually the quickest way to have long-term change not happen. It's the quickest way to delegitimize a movement. It just doesn't work long term. Where I understand if it is a thing. There you go, Michelle from Ohio. Thank you. MAGA has been targeted by the far right and their media propaganda machine since the Reagan administration. 100%. They took, hey, do it by yourself. Pull up your bootstraps. When do it by yourself was with your community, right? It wasn't do it by yourself because they assumed that people were smart enough to be like, oh, by yourself? Nobody does anything by themselves. What they mean is with your group of people, your small community. But the corporations took that ideal to its extreme and said, no, not by the small community. You did everything. It's so funny. We'll have people come in here and be like, huh, this kid only thinks this way because he relies on other people. I only rely on myself. And then I go, did you build your car? Did you build your house? Do you grow all the food that you eat? Did you pipe the water from the local lake? So, no, you rely on other people. Paul, I appreciate you. You're the man, fellow. What's going on? Going spicy today. Because really, fellow, I think I hit on it. I think I figured out something that might help. Well, I've been thinking so much how we can translate all the protesting, especially everything that's happening, into long-term goals. But for protests and boycotts and strike to work, protests need a plan, boycotts need local alternatives, and strikes need economic freedom. So if every single time we had people that were protesting, building towards one of those three things, it would make the next boycott and strike and protest even stronger. And then because the next boycott and strike and protest is even stronger, we'd had even more people to build local alternatives and recruit other people and create economic freedom. So it's this literal feedback loop that if we can get this snowball rolling down the hill, growing on top of each other, where we have enough people that are protesting. Imagine everyone at the Minneapolis protest had a next step to do tomorrow, to do for Tuesday, to do for Wednesday. And it was simple as connect with 10 people and see if they want to buy food locally. Connect with 20 people and see if they want to buy direct primary care. No, Andy, it's just that I think if we monolith entire portions of our country, we won't get to anywhere. I think people more have a misunderstanding of what got us here. And essentially what ended up happening was everybody felt this same way 10 years ago in 2014 and 2015, that corporations are against us and they don't work for us. So we started trying to get politicians to listen to us, but none of them did. And then the MAGA movement came in and said, hey, it's not wealthy people, it's immigrants and people that think differently than you. And so everybody started getting mad at those groups. And then that fractured our society. And I think that fracturing of society is what has allowed corporations to really dominate everything we need to live. And really, corporations and politicians have been working together to make sure that we don't have money and we don't have options. All I think about, fellow, is if every single one at that women's march knew that the next step was local action groups, where we met weekly to develop more local alternatives. Because the more local alternatives we have, the less people need to shop at corporations, and the more local then the less they need to shop at corporations, the stronger our boycotts become. And that's where it starts with understanding that corporations are just middlemen. They don't provide value. They control access. So if controlling access is their biggest option, we need people to understand that, is their biggest tool. We need people to understand that corporations don't actually beat us by offering more or being better. They just control access. So if we can help people have access to what they need to live, our strikes and our boycotts and our protests will be stronger. So our legal rights don't matter at all. If you're talking about the judiciary, they absolutely don't work for us. Everything just gets appealed up to the Supreme Court, in which case it goes with the conservative decision. So that's part of the problem, B-Spams, is people believe that our power lies in our legal rights. That shit's gone. They are not allowing us to protest on the streets and stay alive. They are walking into our houses. There's no legal rights there. Politicians and better. So this isn't about local markets. We're literally telling you to call the farmer and say, hey, do you have some eggs to sell me? There we go, Black Camilla. That's the second aspect. So if people don't want to build the local alternatives, the way that you continue to keep the pressure on is in 3 different ways. City council meetings, local chamber of commerce, and letters to the editors. So we need people to see, all right, we've got the now and the later. We've got the 2 different sides of our protest. We have what is happening instantly, and we have what's happening long term. What's happening instantly is split up into 2 categories: community building and pressure campaign. Pressure campaign is when we put pressure on the current system. We hit up the city councils. We go to the local chamber of commerce. Community building is creating local gardens, setting up local CSAs, connecting people. Andy, you are not understanding cost of goods sold. Grocery stores sell us a dozen eggs for $6 or $7. They buy those eggs from the farmer for $3 or $4. But then the corporations need to go truck it from the farmer to their distribution center, clean it, package it, put it at the grocery store, pay for all the grocery store employees, pay for their rent, and all of those costs go passed on to you for your food. There's overhead, there's marketing, there's packaging. And the price that the corporation buys the food from the farmer is not the final price that they charge you. In fact, the farmer sells it to them for a lot cheaper. That's how they make a profit. But what happens is if one of us calls the farmer, he's going to give us the same price as the grocery store. If 100 of us call, if we're buying 1,000 eggs a week, they are going to say, well, yeah, I'm sick of buying from this corporation too. Every week they try to haggle me and get a lower price because they know they got me in a vice. So I would much rather sell to local people, right? I would much rather sell to local people that care about what I'm doing rather than sell to this corporation, because the corporation's only in it to make money. I'd much rather sell to somebody who's a part of my community. Absolutely, Treen. We can do this. This is going to start with 200 people across the country that are fed up. This is going to start with 200 people that say, I'm ready to show others. Are you going to be one? Because that is what we need to do. It's not going to take 1,000 people. It's not going to take 1,000,000 people agreeing. It took one person to build the car and change the world. And they didn't have to convince anybody to stop riding their horses. They did that on their own because they built something better. Look at local markets and grocery markets. Corporations didn't call us and make a plea to our moral sensibilities to stop going to local markets and stop going to grocery stores, right? No. Grocery stores worked better for us. And so we just started doing that instead. B-Spams, I love it. because that's where I feel this. This is going to happen. We literally need, but I cannot do this alone. We cannot do this alone. We need 200 people across the country to say, fuck it. What do I have to lose? Corporations might offer more products, but they will never care more than I do. Yo, that's my business right now. My business model is I offer the same products, the same services as corporations, but we smile to everyone that walks in the door. We work with them because we care about our community, and everybody that comes to the business recognizes that they are in a place where people care about them. This is how many people are already a part of this. We have to understand the steps and the ways we take those steps are the most important aspect, because we can't